I cannot wait for this. First day on the job, writing up the gaffer's notes in interviews. I'm finally living out my dream. And to think we wanted you to be a doctor. Don't worry, Dad, this will be worth it, okay? I know I'm not a doctor, but I'm gonna blow them away.
Good evening and welcome to this press conference. We just go ahead with your questions, so please wait for the microphone and state the media that you represent and ask your questions for Brian.
God, I beg someone actually ask something. I just want to go home, man. So, any questions?
No questions? All right, thank you for tonight.
Question 1. So, any questions? Dominic, that's not a question. Yo guys, it is your boy Niren here, and you are watching FTW. This is of course the series where I bring to you the best and more frequently the worst of what football has to offer during the last 7 days. Now, last week I realised there was no FTW, and I do apologise. I ended up away for the Formula 1, and I left midweek, so I just didn't have any time to actually record it. But I'll make sure there's an international break during this video to cover all of that stuff too. Now, what's been kicking off in the world this week? Well, there's been concerns in the UK over exacerbations of the Russia-Ukraine war that could see Britain added into the mix. I just want to play GTA 6, bro. I don't care about being involved in World War 3. I'll be limping into boot camp with a fake hamstring injury when I'm drafted in. Jack Grealish is going to be getting a call-up before realising it's for the wrong front line. FTW is going to be tough to make from the bunkers, I won't lie, lads. So listen, Neymar's sister got stuck in the washing. Lads, do you mind? I'm trying to record a video in here. Now, in the Premier League, and I'm sure Manchester City have managed to turn their form around since the last episode of this series. Man City might need their own croquet this week, you know. What a truly mystifying modification. Jake Paul defeated Mike Tyson in a boxing bout in November, but it was Dejan Kulusevski leaving an old man on the floor as Tottenham thrashed Ilkay Gundogan and Man City. Yeah, now this was a mental scoreline for Pep's side, whose crisis only worsened when Tottenham arrived at the Etihad. Man City fans would have been left depressed seeing that the international break was over. They are truly in the trenches here, ladies and gents, because this is the Man City that we grew up loving.
I had to say the real
Manchester City
looks very different.
Pizza takeaway company Domino's were asking City to be humble. Meanwhile, a 4-0 victory for Tottenham against arguably one of the best teams in the world. They're the most confusing club of all time. This is the most normal month of Tottenham's history, losing to Ipswich then beating City.
It's the history of the Tottenham.
And James Maddison was absolutely excellent in this one. To be honest, it could have been 180, the scoreline here after a while. James said that the squad played Mario Kart after the game, hence his celebration, and Pep's head will have been getting dunked on there too. Tottenham announced they got a new badge for the season, removing the text and adding a new feature underneath the cockerel. And Pep Guardiola, he's taken these defeats in the league pretty well, seemingly.
And you'll get it back? That fire?
Me personally, I need that losses. I want to be honest, for the club, it's exceptional that happened. Exceptional.
What the hell is this man on about? Behind the camera, there's a man with a carpet bomb. I'll tell you what, he is tied up onto that chair. Speaking of terrorism, and Kyle Walker was pretty ineffective versus Timo Werner as Spurs grabbed their fourth. Timo explaining why he had such an easy time getting past the right back after the match.
Like, you know what it is? We can't even be laughing at my man, bro. Man's 41, bro. Certain man don't even get to that age.
To be honest, Kyle and Ilkay were not proving that timely in their runs behind to help out with City's defence, because Walker has been scamming Man City fans more than, well, their own supporters have in the last couple of weeks. The football has left Kyle, and Kyle has left his children. Ask me why I'm not surprised that Kyle Walker can't deal with a son. Richarlison might have actually been cooking, by the way, because when he was outraged by Vinny not winning the Ballon d'Or, he said that shit was gonna go down. He's put a curse on the whole football club. You know what's even more mad? Tottenham goalkeeper Vicario played 60 minutes of this game with a broken ankle. Man City couldn't score versus a goalkeeper with half a leg. His foot got uninstalled and Erling Haaland wasn't on the score sheet. And Dejan Kulusevski brought out the L celebration too, just to add salt into the wounds. This wasn't even a full-strength Tottenham, for fuck's sake. They had Dragushin and Ben Davies at the back. No wonder it had expressions pulling his hamstring in celebration.
What's man talking about? Oh, I pulled my hamstring.
San Marino have had enough. They've decided they want to play Man City given the form they're in. And I'm not surprised. Pep's side have won less games than San Marino this month. To me, it's all making sense though. They're missing Calvin Phillips. He was the final piece of the jigsaw puzzle. Now in Europe, and an underdog side were aiming to get a result here after a tough period against a much stronger squad. But Man City did manage to at least get a point versus Feyenoord. Man City compounded a miserable week here by throwing away a 3-goal lead in Europe to the Dutch side. It was squeaky bum time with good reason at 3-2. Pep Guardiola trying to use all of his bald brain power to work out what to do not to completely bottle this one. This is generational head loss. Man City's tweets for the Feyenoord goals, honestly, hang them up in the Louvre, they were that quick. Meanwhile, the Qatari government will be tearing up Pep's new contract as we speak in their next cabinet meeting. Pep was depressed down on the touchline when Feyenoord scored their first goal, for fuck's sake. And I think he genuinely might have been depressed, you know, because he turned up for the pre-match interview with cuts all over his face. He got rushed in the dressing room. The rest of their team taking matters into their own hands, seeing Pep was going to play Rico Lewis in midfield again. Them head scratchers were looking a little bit suspicious, to be honest. I'm not gonna lie, I think I know how he got them, physically banging his head against the wall as Feyenoord scored their third of the match.
But you've got a cut, and apparently some others.
With my finger here, my nail. I wanna hurt myself. Yeah. Good night.
It'll be okay.
And I can understand, honestly, after the run that they've been on, but Pep, this is never the answer, I promise. He did actually clarify these comments after. I kind of thought at the time it might have been a bit of a language barrier thing, but he'll be looking worse for wear coming out for the Liverpool game in a wheelchair. Imagine this man with the stress of being Wolves manager annually. It would be the end of him.
You have to crash your car into a jungle gym.
Yeah, I wish I would.
Who's that?
I wish I would crash into a jungle gym.
Whatever, dude.
Meanwhile, Feyenoord fans, well, they were rubbing salt in the wounds by chanting for their former manager Arne Slot, who's top of the Premier League with Liverpool. Arne Slot! Elsewhere in Europe, and speaking of which, there was a titanic clash between Liverpool and Real Madrid, where the Reds stayed top with a 100% record in the Champions League after a 2-0 win. We have finally settled the score in a game that doesn't matter whatsoever, really, because we're basically already through, but, I mean, it's still a good win. Mbappe missed a penalty in this one, and once again struggled to make an impact for Real. A 5.8 rating overall, and it was time for fans to start DMing him Arabic lessons.
God strike me down, inshallah.
At least he's already working on his move to the Chinese Super League.
人少风景好的小城上哪儿搜？
He'll be lucky if he even gets that the way things are going. I need a new job for him. And he'll still be offside, getting the chips out of the deep fryer. He doesn't even look like he's kind of fitting in on the pitch and kind of off it, to be honest with you, down in the tunnel. And when he was on the ball, he was getting absolutely clamped by Conor Bradley. I need a Bradley statue outside of Anfield. To be honest, maybe even an Mbappe statue in this form as well. Because the Northern Irish youngster and Virgil van Dijk had him breakdancing in the middle of the pitch. Conor Bradley, by the way, pocketed Mbappe in his natural position here. He's the future. He'll be packing Trent Alexander-Arnold's suitcase to Madrid for him, buying a ticket for his medical here and now, because Conor was not falling for it when Mbappe done a League on Just Eat Taco Bell step over. Meanwhile, for the penalty save, and Alisson was realising that Quaveen Kelleher might be the real deal.
I'm finished.
Kylian then limped off the pitch in a stance similar to Bukayo Saka's. Hey yo, Saks blood, did you see Kylian Mbappe done a mad ting, sad ting? Florentino Perez is gonna be left devastated reading the extent of Kylian's contract after this performance now. He wasn't the only one, to be fair, providing incredible screenshots in the first half, as Darwin Núñez was diving to the floor. And he wasn't the only person missing a penalty in this one. Mo Salah put in his spot kick wide. It didn't matter because Gakpo grabbed the second, but Mo Salah's brother, who looks exactly the same as him, was left shocked up in the crowd. After the game, though, when there were scary scenes for Real Madrid as they were involved in a bus crash on the way back from Anfield, the second biggest car crash of the week for them. Kylian was sent flying after the initial impact. Meanwhile, Carlos at the wheel taken a little bit literally for a man who's got arthritis. The scenes from the dash cam pretty shocking overall as Ancelotti swerved through traffic. Meanwhile, Endrick was using it as another excuse to shout out his heroes. Look, I've got to say, I was always inspired by how Adam died at the start of the Bible. For Arsenal, they brushed aside a Sporting Lisbon team that had beaten Manchester City recently. A convincing 5-1 victory here. A Gunners mascot decided to bring out the Gyökeres celebration before the game started, and Brazilian centre-back Gabriel would do the same. Gyökeres himself called out Gabriel, saying that if he needed to steal a celebration, then feel free to do so. The actual reason for this, because a Sporting player did it to Granit Xhaka, copying his celebration in the Europa League a couple of years ago. A rivalry with Sporting stinks, by the way. I'm just saying that outwardly. But Gabriel had some harsh words for Victor when the Swede tried to bring out his celebration at the other end.
Don't fucking try any of that shit, because I've been here before. I'm a professional. This is what I do.
Over in France, and like a well-functioning bra, Barcelona handed handled Brest. 3-0 the scoreline here in the Champions League. Now, CBS Sports, they've had a difficult time keeping hold of Micah Richards when it comes to this specific Ligue 1 side. And they decided he was going to be banned from speaking about the club after their 3-0 defeat here to Barca.
We do feel that you have consistently proven that you can't stay professional in these segments where we're talking about Brest. So production would like to ask you, are you comfortable with just staying silent whilst we...
Come on, okay, I can do this.
No laughs, you know? Is that okay? After 4 games, who here likes Brest? Like Brest? You do too?
I like the shape of them. I mean, you look at the setup from the manager he's got, you know, he's got a back 4. He's got a front 2 tonight.
I'm interested, how much do you enjoy watching them? Would you pay to watch them?
I have done.
No, but basically, one thing that you can say is you don't have to be big, you can be small and compete.
That's interesting. Do you think Brest could get exposed tonight?
I hope so.
Jamie Carragher with a couple of sensational one-liners here. Barca might be sponsored by Spotify, but the playlist for this one was a little bit rogue. Danny Olmo will have been left gutted, realising that there were no breasts at all when he walked out onto the pitch at kickoff. And judging from Paul Kubasi's Instagram likes, he's a big fan of Brest. And also the Ligue 1 side too. On the French team, and PSG were defeated by Bayern Munich, Kim Min-jae scoring against a 10-man side. Well, they were an 11-man side at the time, but they became 10. Now, Gianluigi Donnarumma was finally dropped for this one, and it was definitely for the best, only to be replaced by a goalkeeper with a ponytail, really throwing it back to the David Seaman era. But unfortunately for him, it was Bayern Munich showing off the better finishing here, with PSG jumping on the chill guys meme, given the fact that there's so many points clear in Ligue 1, only to be dropped down to earth at the fact they're about to drop down to 38th in the Champions League out of 36 teams. Manuel Neuer sent Ousmane Dembele to the shop still at the age of 58 and could be seen in central midfield later on in the game. Imagine my shot. They're back in the Premier League, and Manchester United had a new manager down on the touchline. But truthfully, it wasn't the dream start for him. Left in a bad place. Not mentally, he was just in Ipswich. Ruben Amorim's first game ended in a draw against the Tractor Boys. Despite taking an early lead, they'd be pegged back by Amari Hutchinson. And honestly, that had Amorim stressed after watching about 6 minutes of Premier League football. He was exhausted just watching Luke Shaw do the bleep test in training after admitting the task at hand is a little bit more than he was actually expecting upon leaving Sporting. He was down on the touchline in tatters as Rasmus Højlund spooned the ball over the bar. As for Joshua Zirkzee, man, there's some serious questions that have got to be asked about Manchester United.
I don't promote the violence, but many people need like some good slap right now in this club.
Meanwhile, Diogo Dalot took to Twitter to boast about the fact that he'd started a LinkedIn. Ruben Amorim had seen him miss against West Ham and told him to get a real job immediately. One Twitter page used Amorim to press down on the touchline with the caption, "This wasn't like playing Estrella de Amadora anymore," only for them to quote it wondering why they'd caught a stray. And Ruben was even less pleased at full time when interviewed by Sky Sports, only to be interrupted by Ed Sheeran. Count yourself lucky you didn't have to actually listen to any of his music, Ruben. Now, he left an apology on Insta, basically suggesting he didn't know that they were live at the time, but Ruben looked absolutely fuming, as was Roy Keane when he got confronted by an Ipswich fan from the stands. Now, this game was very strange because a decent portion of it was played without VAR due to a fire alarm and evacuation at Stockley Park. To be honest, an empty Stockley Park just as useful as the actual officials being in there in the first place. The reason? Let's be honest, David Coote setting it off by accident after the arrival of a 6th gram of ketamine.
That fucking last video can't go anywhere.
Now, at Liverpool versus Southampton, and this one was a little bit closer than it needed to be against the league's bottom side, but the Egyptian king was there to do it again.
Sign the contract, big boy. Sign the contract.
He scored an important goal late on, basically turning the game around on its own, to be honest, as the Reds won 3-2, but he wasn't too pleased about Liverpool's handling of his new deal, suggesting that he hasn't actually had an offer yet, and seemingly as if he wants one at the very least. I can't wait for the Saudi government. They're ready to offer this man £6.7 gajillion to get him to sign for Al Nassr. At the other end of the pitch, and Adam Armstrong managed to do quite literally everything in this game. Problem is, he was let down by his back line, as Southampton's defenders were caught looking at each other anytime Russell Martin actually asked them to play out from the back. Their goalkeeper might also need putting down at this point, to be honest with you. And the way they're playing at the back at the moment, the amount of points they can hope to earn between now and the end of the season's looking pretty minimal.
At best, I would give you 2.5.
Of course, this now means Liverpool are 8 points clear at the top of the Premier League, and with Manchester City next to play in an all-important game off the back of 5 wins in a row, with Man City off the back of 5 losses in a row, it's of course to be expected that Manchester City will win. At Chelsea, they defeated last season's championship winners Leicester City 2-1, but before this one, and there was news that Reece James had become injured again. Jesus Christ, I didn't see that one coming.
This guy's like a fragile op, but fragility.
His hamstring falls off the bone anytime he needs to do more than 6 minutes of exercise. Going into the game though, and there was awkward scenes between Noni Madueke and Cole Palmer after the winger accidentally blocked Cole's effort from 2 yards out. At least they saw the funny side of it. Off the pitch though, and Cole Palmer is embroiled in an absolutely scandalous affair as he was seen pictured at McDonald's with these workers doing his cold celebration. Of course, not the chippy chips we'd known him loving.
Chippy chips dot bowling.
Jadon Sancho, look, listen, the early spark that Chelsea fans were expecting here, I don't think it's delivering anymore. They'll be negotiating any kind of way to get any sort of money for the man they brought in till the end of the season from United.
It's mad, bro. One of the club teams loaned the player, and that team sold the player, bro. I saw my life.
Meanwhile, Enzo Fernandez has been a different player recently. He has been an absolutely sensational midfielder since he put his kids up for adoption. Now though, it's time for your international break. This is everything that happened last week that I wasn't able to cover, so sit down, it's time to get going. San Marino beat Liechtenstein again. These lot are actually good. They've had 3 wins in their whole history, and all of them are against Liechtenstein. Their celebrations were wild, of course, as you'd expect again, and their tweets even wilder. England beat Ireland 5-0 in a pretty convincing victory after Ireland went down to 10 men. One young fan used it as an opportunity to try and get Jude Bellingham to sign for Arsenal.
Hi, Jude. Okay. Come to Arsenal, Jude. Please. We'll look after you. Oh, yeah.
Meanwhile, Ireland fans will be depressed knowing they got slapped 5-0, but happy knowing that their Guinness is actually drinkable. The Netherlands beat Hungary 4-0, but the overriding story here was Adam Szalai collapsing amongst Hungary's coaching staff. Thankfully, he's okay. He's made a full recovery, but I thought Wout Weghorst celebrating just after this happened was a little bit tasteless. We can see the recreation of his celebration here as a Hungary coach had a near-death asthma attack on the sidelines. Victor Gyökeres's goal scoring continued for Sweden, scoring 4 in one game. Meanwhile, Alexander Isak was denied after a criminal offside decision against Azerbaijan. Germany defeated Bosnia 7-0 in Freiburg. The last 4 games they played in Freiburg as a nation have ended in 7-0 wins. Jamal Musiala made one young mascot's day by giving him his jacket when it was cold, though Kai Havertz wasn't giving in to that sort of wholesomeness, taking jackets off young children when the temperature got below 3 degrees. Turkey debuted a new home kit, a very, very brown one on Arda Güler. Over in America, and Christian Pulisic brought out Donald Trump's dance as a celebration after scoring in midweek. I've fucking had enough of it. Keep politics out of sport, mate. Get them up. Venezuela faced off against Brazil, and with Brazil having a chance to score late on, Venezuelans managing the stadium switched the sprinklers on. Meanwhile, there were crazy scenes in Mexico as their manager was hit by a can flying from the stands after a game against Honduras and just pretended that it didn't happen. Darwin Núñez was his usual self, trying to jump over some advertising boards. Meanwhile, Ghana are being their usual selves. They're already out of AFCON, failing to qualify for the tournament. Ghanaian fans were so disappointed by this stage, they actually wanted Mohamed Kudus to miss a late penalty versus Luis Suarez's favourite nation in West Africa, and cheered when he did so. Meanwhile, for Australia, and surely we've got a record here for the furthest goals apart, as Yengi here scored in the first minute and then in the final minute of injury time too. Back in the Champions League, and Celtic scored one of the worst own goals that you're going to see all season, and one of the worst decisions of the season has got to go to the referee in charge of Aston Villa's game against Juventus, which ended 0-0 after an Aston Villa player pushed Juventus' goalkeeper extremely lightly. The game has gone softer than Joe Biden at a swingers party. Now, Steve Cooper has been sacked as Leicester manager, but there was wild stuff inside a nightclub as Leicester players were videoed with a sign saying they missed Enzo Maresca in charge of the club. Fair to say he'd lost the dressing room. And Steve hasn't taken the news very well. Put on the TV. Nigga ran with the grip when he see me. Brentford may well have lost the dressing room as well, as Fabio Carvalho's dad took to Instagram to tell his son that he needed to leave the club. Meanwhile, Stuntpeg was being her usual knowledgeable self over on Sky Sports.
The all-time Premier League 11 right-wing position is now Mo Salah.
Cristiano Ronaldo 07-08, the Ballon d'Or season.
I'd say the way that he gets in over Ronaldo is just the fact that this is his 8th season of that relentless consistency.
Salah's responsibility is to score goals, whereas David Beckham's responsibility was to create goals.
I mean, Salah's 5 assists away from David Beckham, so he can also create goals too.
The most offensive thing here is somebody saying that Bukayo Saka should be in an all-time Premier League 11. Aston Villa secured themselves a penalty against Crystal Palace, only for Dean Henderson to save it, and then Palace to go up the other end and score. His knee slide may well be a contender for the greatest I've ever seen. Over in Spain, and Vinny Jr. will be getting a Netflix show to cover the season that he's just had at Real Madrid. Can't help but feel he'll be getting pretty aggressive when he sees the final episode. Speaking of Vinny Jr., and himself and Jude Bellingham were getting pretty close, I'm not gonna lie.
Why are you gay?
Meanwhile, Barcelona's Jules Koundé was spotted on a train platform over in the country, only for Jules to say, nah, G, it's actually my twin brother instead, I swear. You could tell, to be honest with you, because he wasn't wearing a balaclava, wedding dress, and pair of Doc Martens from 1964. In Italy, and Rafael Leao was skipping past Slovan Bratislava's goalkeeper whilst smiling, as always. Speaking of AC Milan, and over on their Instagram, they were conducting a Guess Who competition, which quite literally featured the player's name on the back of his shirt. Ah, yes. It's Tammy Abraham. Roma's psychologist, who they'd hired in an aim to steady the disaster that their season was becoming, has in fact left the club after 20 days. Turns out he did need his own psychologist after all. Meanwhile, Patrick Vieira might need a psychologist over at Genoa, as they've hired him to reunite with Mario Balotelli, who signed for the club in the summer. These two had a massive disagreement last time they were at the same club together, and Patrick will be attempting to shake some sense into Mario when he tries to scorpion kick a penalty in their next league game. Bayern Munich won 3-0 against Augsburg over in the Bundesliga to take control at the top of the table, and Harry Kane pulled off some beautiful ball control late on in this one, recreating the Bundesliga logo for the final goal. Incredible stuff. It didn't stop Thomas Muller taking the piss out of his celebration at full time. It also didn't stop one of the most hideous statues I think I've ever seen. No, that's not me being disrespectful to Harold. It's the fact that it is a genuinely terribly made statue that doesn't really look anything like him.
Presenting the Mark Phillips statue.
Yeah. Hey! Oh my God! Just like you, for real. No, not just like me, bro. I appreciate it. Yeah, for sure.
Gonna be around forever.
Meanwhile, in France, and Lyon are facing potential relegation due to the fact they're in £422 million worth of debt. They'll have been gutted seeing their bank balance when they head to the nearest ATM.
Where is it? Come on, please, don't lie to me. I had £3 yesterday. Why the fuck? Yeah, I know I got cash, please.
Yeah, they've been handed this provisional relegation because of future accounts, in essence. They need to, I think, I watched a HITC7's video about this. They're basically going to have to try and recoup about €100 million by the end of the season if they're to get away with this. Either way, Ryan Shirky will be left suspicious when he sees a £423 million price tag appear on their LinkedIn. But overall, I really hope they get out of this situation. One of the biggest clubs in France, it'd be a shame to see them go a similar direction to Bordeaux. Now that it's time for your goals of the week, we've got some more bangers again. First of all, at Frome versus Glenmore, this is in Jamaica, we have got a stunning free kick from distance being banged right into the top corner. But after that, we go into some Olympic level gymnastics because we have got some beautiful acrobatics. First of all, coming from Angel Di Maria as he scores for Benfica here. Take that goal and give it the Paul Pogba treatment though, and you'll find what we have here for Internacional's under 15s. This is genuinely ludicrous, like an actual push-gas contender, especially given it's from such a young player in the name of Derek. Watch out for the name, because this goal is one of the best you're ever going to see.
Hello all, and welcome to The Beautiful Game, the segment where we take a look at the poetic and brilliant side of the game that we love. We are back by popular demand for yet more glorious beauty. And that concludes The Beautiful Game.
Now, in Saudi Arabia, and Cristiano Ronaldo will not stop scoring goals. As for Al Nassr, he's now reached 911, or 911, as Al Nassr so poetically tweeted. Cristiano bin Ronaldo's gone crazy on this one. How am I doing, Dad? You're doing just fine, sunshine. This is a risky tweet, given it's a Saudi Arabian team, I'm not gonna lie to you. I knew him being a pilot was gonna end badly. Meanwhile, Pele absolutely fuming with this addition of even more goals for Big Ron. He'll be fuming in the afterlife, scoring versus 3-year-old cherubs for Heaven 11. Meanwhile, there's more news for Mauro Icardi. Oh, Jesus Christ, not this guy again. Yeah, he's basically decided that he's divorcing his ex-partner and former agent as well, Wanda Nara, basically filming her on Insta and kind of outing her as being in a relationship with a rapper. I don't know the ins and outs, and nor do I care. The only thing I do care about in this situation is that he has a defense lawyer for this divorce. He's decided to start dating her now. This brother has learned absolutely nothing. I didn't mention it in the original Champions League roundup, but shout out to PSV with a ridiculous remontada to come back from 2-0 down against Shakhtar Donetsk to win 3-2 with 3 goals all scored after the 87th minute. In Poland, and some less impressive stuff now, with a no-look pass that would have Roberto Firmino rolling in his Anfield grave. And even worse, actually, to be honest with you, from Hakim Ziyech, who can't even use the excuse of not looking. He had his eyes firmly on the ball as he somehow managed to defy logic and put the ball over the bar from here. In Brazil, Palmeiras' president was asked whether she would want to bring Neymar to the club. She replied by saying that this isn't a medical department. Yeah, it's a shithousery award. She didn't even have to do all of that. That's actually crazy, to be honest with you. And speaking of Palmeiras, well, they might want to give out some financial compensation to their fans, because they had a music performance, a concert at their ground before a crucial game against Botafogo and didn't get a chance to actually deconstruct the stage, which meant that it was in the way for a large portion of fans. They were given free tickets for the inconvenience and had to watch the game on a screen despite being in the stadium. All they did was miss Palmeiras bottle it anyway, to be honest with you. At Celtic versus Hearts and going into the latter stages, one of the linesmen managed to pull his thigh. That meant that the fourth official needed to step up and grab a flag, only he decided to take about 17 years to get ready in the changing rooms.
Is the fourth official having a massage here? I mean...
Meanwhile, in one random house in the UK, and it seems like someone's gran has won the Europa Conference League. What in the vase? Down a futsal pitch somewhere around the world, we've got some lovely bits of skill to get away from some defenders, get a little bit of space, but he's forced backwards. Falls so far backwards that he puts the ball into his own net. I mean, it's probably the most skillful OG you'll ever see. In Uruguay, meanwhile, and one innocent dog just wants to get involved in the action, I can't lie. Brazilian forward Davison has got that dog in him. We've seen this man feature many a time in FTW. He's found a new skill move that he can use, and I want to see it in FIFA by grabbing his foot and stretching his quad instead of going for a ball down the line. Meanwhile, Porto fans are disappointed, angry even, at the fact that their side are out of the Portuguese Cup in the early stages, remonstrating in front of the team bus as it was driving home. Closer to home, and there was some crazy stuff going on between Coventry and Sheffield United. This game ended in a draw, though Sheffield United were winning until Anel Amadodzic got sent off, having been baited by Coventry's Bassett. He lashed out, got himself a red card, and the Coventry man winked at the rest of his players. Yeah, it's a shithousery award, man. That's crazy. At Swindon, and their manager, the eccentric Ian Holloway, reckons that his club's bad form is down to the training ground being haunted. Surely the last thing a ghost is going to haunt is Swindon Town's away form in League 2. At Boston now, and they were gifted a goal by a keeper, quite literally not responding as the ball came towards him. At Walton and Hersham now, and if you thought that was bad goalkeeping, then this own goal, it might be match fixing. Someone check this man's Ladbrokes account. At Southport, and we've got some of the worst cheesy chips that I've ever seen in my life. I need compensation. Forget about a refund. Zlatan Ibrahimovic proved that he has still got it as he produced this outrageous scorpion kick in a little five-a-side game at the age of 43. In Norway, and we've got a keeper getting the most pathetic red card I've ever seen. If this doesn't get rescinded, the forward that's gone down here extremely easily needs to have a word with himself. I feel so bad for the keeper here. In Botswana, and one club were seen pouring some suspicious liquids onto the pitch in an act of juju or black magic, only to end up 6-0 down to a team from Algeria anyway. And speaking of curses, at Hallam, they've decided the number 9 shirt, there's no point even having one, given the fact that all of their goal scorers seem to be cursed the moment they put it on. One team from Trinidad and Tobago will feel like they're cursed at the moment. They ended up losing 17-0, no thanks to this women's side goalkeeper running out of her area and picking up the ball nearer the 40-yard mark anyway. I told you recently, Jason Punchin had become boss at Ayia Napa over in Cyprus. He has left already after 2 games in charge. The brother went there for a 2-week holiday and dipped. Now that it's time for Still 0-0, and you guys know the score by now. This is a segment of the show where I bring to the best of Sunday League and amateur football. And this week we've got like a bit of a mystery, really. I don't actually know how this clip has started. We've got a player on the floor. He's wasting a little bit of time, I think. The side in white are clearly winning. Team in blue, this guy stood up, is not too pleased, all right? He wants to get on with their game. Time wasting, one of the dark arts, really. It's utilised a lot of shithousery in Sunday League anyway. So, boy in blue here has decided that he's going to push and pull this Don off the pitch so that it can get get the game started again. The problem is, in his hot-headedness, he's forgot that he's already on a yellow card. He's flipped out at this point. He's already been sent off. He started chatting shit to the referee, and he's been booked again. Brother got yellow carded 3 times. I didn't even know that was possible. On to the weird stuff, though, now. Over in Belarus, and there is one side that will comfortably want to see the back end of this season, and that team is Smorgon. I've actually told you about them in a previous FTW, I want to say a few months ago, as they started their league campaign in the Women's League in Belarus very, very badly. It's fair to say things haven't got too much better, and they ended the season with a 28-0 loss this week. I don't know, I can't remember what the goal difference was. You'll see it on the screen with the league table, but they have had a season to forget. In the Coupe de France, and we have got one of the maddest away journeys that you're ever going to hear about. The Coupe de France is actually quite unique anyway, because it encapsulates a lot of offshore territories that France still hold on to, including Tahiti over in the Pacific Ocean. Now, there is a side called AS Dragon from Tahiti who qualified for the French Cup, and they have been rewarded by 4th tier side US Avranches heading over to Tahiti to face them. A home tie that far away. It is a crazy, crazy journey. We'll have to see how the Tahitian side do. And finally, at Borussia Dortmund in Germany, 18-year-old Almugera Kabar started for their under-19s in the UEFA Youth Cup this week. He's, I'm sure, a pretty promising player for Dortmund, and I'm sure they value him pretty well. Well, they value him enough for him to be on the bench in the Champions League the very same day. Yet this kid's played an under-19s game for Dortmund, and then later that evening has been chosen to be on the bench for the actual Champions League senior game. The poor boy's busy. That, though, is going to wrap up football this week, and I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, then feel free to slap a like on the video, and of course subscribe if you are new to the channel. You can also follow me on social media. It is @theofficialfng on Twitter and on Insta. It's been a pleasure ranting at you guys today. Have a wonderful day, enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.